Laura Bicker there. Let's bring you more now on our top story. President Biden's first speech to Congress on the eve of his first 100 days in office. I'm joined now by Paul Glastris, former senior speechwriter to President Clinton, now the editor-in-chief of the Washington Monthly. Good to see you. What did you make not only of the president's performance, but also just the tone of his address? Well,
it was an extraordinary thing. Never in the history of the presidential joint session of Congress televised has there been one where the demeanor was so conversational. Partly this is Joe Biden's comfort zone. He's not a great orator, but he's a great schmoozer and talker. But it was also due to the fact that normally there's 1,500 officials in that room. It was stripped down because of the pandemic to 200. And so there weren't these roars of approval constantly that he had to talk over. And it had this very conversational, intimate quality that really did play to his strengths.
And Paul, and the agenda, it was so bold, so ambitious.
It was very bold, very ambitious. We've not seen a president talk about the role of government and activist government in the lives of the American people. No Democrat, certainly, much less Republican, since the 1960s. At the same time, it's very noteworthy what he didn't say. He talked about the insurrection in Congress in January, but he didn't blame Republicans specifically for apologizing for it or in some ways creating it. He didn't draw big lines in the sand about how much he wanted to spend or how high he wanted to raise taxes. He didn't talk about a whole lot of hot button liberal ideas. He was signaling his understanding that he needs to negotiate with Republicans. And so the left of his base heard him say all the right things. The Republicans heard him say, I'm willing to meet you at the table, because he has to. He needs to at least be shown to negotiate with the Republicans in order to move his centrist Democrats toward where he needs to go, which is ultimately party line votes.
It almost felt, Paul, too, that he was very much speaking to the people rather than politicians, and that focus on jobs constantly. There was this one moment where he said nearly 90% of infrastructure jobs do not require a college degree. And I thought, there he is, actually reaching out to Trump supporters with that statement.
Absolutely. That's very astute. This was a president trying to frame everything in his agenda: the social spending, the national security concerns in terms of jobs, economic growth for average Americans, and trying to send a signal. The Democratic Party is not the elitist party that it's been portrayed. It's the party of, regular folks, many of whom don't have college degrees. We're looking out after you. And I thought in that way it was very, very effective.
So, Paul, is this a big gamble then for Republicans going against that message? Because it's a powerful one. It's about recovery and jobs and family.
Well, it could be a big challenge. Look, almost everything on Joe Biden's agenda gets 60+% support from the public. He is not touching hot button issues. The difficulty for Republicans is that their base may be in favor of some of these things, but they're virulently anti-Democrat, anti-liberal. And so if they're shown to be meeting Biden halfway, they put themselves in danger of being primaried by more conservative candidates. So there's a whole lot of senators in that room that would like to cut a deal that may be afraid to.
Interesting to see what comes next. Paul, thanks so much for joining us. Paul Glastris joining us there from Washington.